Welcome to Super Suits, the show that breaks down all the famous lawsuits in the history of superheroes and comic books. Marvel UK was a company founded in the 70s to reprint US-produced stories for the British weekly comic market, and who later helped launch the careers of many now legendary British comic talents like Alan Moore, Grant Morrison, Stephen Dillon, the list goes on, with their own original series. One of their original creations was a character called Dark Angel, who made her first appearance July 1st, 1992. Only you see, the character wasn't always called Dark Angel. In her premiere issue, she had a very different name. She was called HELLS Angel, a name that just so happened to catch the eye of the biggest outlaw motorcycle club in the world, who just so happened to also be called the HELLS Angels. Now, while stories differ on how they came to that name, the consensus seems to be that the name is a holdover from the World Wars, and HELLS Angels was inspired by the typical naming of American squadrons or other fighting groups with a fierce, death-defying title. But yes, this is true. A group of burly 1% bikers who are considered an organized crime syndicate by the US Department of Justice did indeed take the British branch of the House of Ideas to court. A lawsuit would be brought before Marvel UK on October 3rd, 1992, stating HELLS Angels Motorcycle Corp owns exclusive federally registered rights to the HELLS Angels name and insignia. The club incorporated in Oakland 22 years prior. Marvel is accused in the lawsuit of unfair competition and getting a quote-unquote free ride by using the club's highly recognizable and powerfully evocative name for a female character who debuted that July. The plaintiff's attorney, Fritz Howard Clapp, a man who would spend most of his legal career protecting the HELLS Angels' intellectual property, and it was honestly very fascinating in his own right, asked the court for an order halting further sales, destruction of unsold issues, and damages, including Marvel's profit from the comic. How interesting is Mr. Clapp? Well, if you go to his very sparse website, which is still up, he refers to himself as the lawyer from hell, or the guardian angel of the HELLS Angels intellectual property. He got his law degree in Sacramento and spends most of his time traveling around the country in an RV, wherever his legal work takes him. Also, despite his mohawk and very rebel appearance, Clapp was known for putting people at ease in the courtroom who, rightly so, feared for their safety when dealing with the HELLS Angels. Clapp began working with the Angels in the 70s, and this Marvel lawsuit would mark a major turning point in how the club dealt with their own trademark. It should also probably be noted that while Clapp is an avid motorcyclist, he is not now, nor has he ever been an actual member of the HELLS Angels. Now, you out there watching, you're all probably thinking Marvel UK has some sort of great legal comeback, some loophole they could exploit. Yeah, you would be dead wrong on that. Turns out, much like when Homer Simpson was met with bikers claiming copyright infringement, the best thing to do in this situation is to just, let the bikers have their way. In the end, as strange as it might sound, this story actually had something of a happy ending to it. The lawsuit was settled by Marvel, agreeing to pay $35,000 as a charitable gift to the Ronald McDonald House charity in the name of both Marvel UK and the HELLS Angels. In addition, of course, to renaming the character, a character that I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say most of you didn't even know existed until I told you about her today. This would not be the last time Marvel UK would find itself in court. Turns out Dark Angel was already the name of a comic by Hart Fisher's Boneyard Press, so Marvel just cut their losses and stopped publishing the character altogether. This would also not be the last time the HELLS Angels would stretch their litigious muscles by calling on the very same legal system they decry as part of the machinery that they say has unfairly defined them as criminals, but those are both super suits for another day. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of Super Suits. For more educational comic book videos, be sure to subscribe to Scott and NerdSync, and if you want to see more of my work, you can check me out over at Cape Joel, follow me on Twitter at the DVD Grouch, and as always, see all the great news and reviews pieces that I'm doing over at the ComicBookCast. And hey, if there's any particular lawsuit you'd like to see me cover on a future episode of Super Suits, please let us know in the comment section down below.